Welcome. It is September 2023, and today we're going to be planting some things into the fall garden. First thing up is white sage. The main reason I want to grow white sage is because I really want to grow my own and have my own supply from my nursery. If you look over here, we have a whole stock of nursery plants, and I want to start making my own cuttings for this. Next is pineapple sage. I've been growing this in my nursery for a couple years now. I am running low on a few of these plants, so I really want to get a nice big mother plant so I can get cuttings from, as this is really easy to propagate as well. And lastly, I want some fall vegetables. These ones are getting a little eaten up by some moths, but they are okay. These are Brussel sprouts, and we're gonna plant these further down. So the way we are going about planting this is that we're using the slope to our advantage. So the land naturally slopes this way, and the water stays a little bit more wet that way. So things that like less water, like this white sage, is gonna go in the higher elevation. The pineapple sage in the middle, and the Brussels sprouts, the brassicas, tend to be a little bit more water loving, so they're going to be going towards the end over there. One thing to do in your garden before planting is to stage it. So we first imagine where it's going to grow. It's going to fill up this perimeter. That white sage, this one's going to fill up this perimeter next to this lemongrass. Over here it gets a little bit more moist, so we have two holes, and we're going to plant two Brussels sprout plants to amend the soil, meaning to fertilize the soil, to rejuvenate the soil with nutrients and life. We are going to be using some of this garden soil, and then we're topping it with a mulch. This is the perfect time to mulch your garden right now because this is autumn. So imagine in nature, all the leaves are naturally falling down. They create a natural mulch, they compost, and they refertilize for spring. So this is going to be for the fall garden, and the mulch is going to be for the spring garden, so we don't have to constantly be buying soil bags. So first we're going to cut it up, and we're just going to spread this around. The little trick I like to do is add a little bit of potting soil into the hole so it has good drainage still. This is a good time to explain the difference between buying potting soil versus buying garden soil at your big box stores. A lot of times people are tempted to buy garden soil for their potted plants, the plants that are in your pots, because it's much cheaper. But please keep in mind that garden soil is designed for in the ground versus potting soil is designed for pots. The reason why it's designed for pots is because it has things like perlite and vermiculite, which really help with drainage and really help with water retention, and doesn't have as much chip material in it. So this is going to allow the plants in pots to thrive a lot better than just using regular garden soil. But don't get me wrong, if garden soil is what you have, use what you have and use garden soil. But it's just my personal experience with it. Even when I'm transplanting a pot into the ground, like I said, I like to use the garden soil mainly, along with the native soil that's already in there that I have been amending for a while. I use some potting soil in the actual hole to kind of keep the drainage, prevent any root rottage, keeping the plants nice and healthy. Also, in addition, these potting soils usually have mycorrhiza. There's mycorrhiza in the ground as well, but it's basically just naturally occurring fungi which help root development. And if you remember in the previous video, if you have strong roots, you will have a strong top. So strong roots equals strong top. There you go. We're going to plant it in, and what you want to do is cover the bottom roots with soil. Leave the leaves exposed to the sun. A lot of times I like to take off these bottom leaves because when these bottom leaves are touching the floor, they could be prone to diseases like mold or some type of funguses, which is something you want to be wary about when it comes to your sage and other plants like tomatoes. So after you got that done, you're going to put some around to just bury it up. And then just put a little bit of potting soil and garden soil and native soil in there. And now you have a beautiful white sage plant, perfectly planted in. It's going to grow really, really nice here in Southern California. Lastly, our Brussels sprouts right here. We're going to plant two of them here. And interestingly enough, Brussels sprouts actually are grown on the stalk of the plant. So they're very interesting, very fun to grow. I love roasted Brussels sprouts a lot. Some really good vegetables. So I'm going to grow some. And they like cooler weather. They're not really much of a summer crop, so we don't grow them during summer here. We get a bit hot. But we're just amending some of the soil here with some fresh potting and fresh garden soil. Afterwards, we're gonna put some of our potting soil into the hole, and this is gonna help the plant get acclimated to its new environment. Okay. To pull out the plants, you're gonna want to gently squeeze the sides, pull it out. Check out these beautiful root balls. I like to pick off the lower leaves, just so they don't get any diseases. Again, what is mulch in the garden? Mulch is usually things like wood chips, fallen leaves, branches, and so forth that fall naturally during the autumn or fall time to the ground. This will then feed the soil and the microbes, the worms in the soil, to create new rich soil that will be available during spring. So this is a mulch. This one's already kind of almost done breaking down, so it will probably break down within a month or two, especially since we are in Southern California and it's still pretty warm. But basically we're going to spread this around, and this is going to help retain moisture in the garden so we don't have to water as much, which ultimately saves water and builds soil. So I'll show you how we do this. I'm going to break it up and spread it around. Next, we're going to mulch up our Brussel sprouts here. So these plants will eventually fill up this whole space, but meanwhile, while I have the room, I don't like to waste any space. So things like lettuce grow really fast, especially ones that have been started in the greenhouse early. These will be ready. These ones are already pretty much ready to eat, but these ones will be ready in about 30 days before these spread out, and I can get a harvest of lettuce before these spread out. Also, lettuce doesn't mind shallower dirts. Even though this dirt is really deep, they will grow in just a little top soil that I just added right now. And to plant lettuce, I like to pluck off the bottom leaves and just make a little hole somewhere. So, lettuce is not too finicky when growing. It's really easy to grow. Okay, now we planted our fall garden. We planted these lettuces. These are gonna grow up faster than the sage. We're gonna harvest these lettuce, cut them down to the branch, let the sage fill up the spot. Then eventually we're gonna harvest the sage, propagate it, and make new nursery plants where we could share them all with you guys online. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys want to get any of your own nursery plants, check out the link in our bio. We have amazing things like this Greek columnar basil. We have this eucalyptus plants. We have baby eucalyptus plants that are starting to grow really nicely. We have herbs like rue, lemongrass, nasturtiums, veggies, papayas, fruits, succulents, houseplants, you name it, we will have it. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.